And after watching that, it kind of broke my brain in a way, being like, every time I see just fully animated from point A to point B, them doing something, I'm like, I give people credit now for that. I'm like, good job. You showed them, like running to somebody and punching them or going from left side of the screen to the right and you transition camera angles. Oh, wow. You know,
You can do a
uh,
walking animation. Yay.
Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, life, entertainment, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who's playing 5 different parts of the Rocky Horror Picture Show for his local high school. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
Oh yeah, I forgot that was the thing. Yeah. Um, 5 different parts. You mean in the play, right?
You're the one doing them, so I assume
Okay.
you're. I was just afraid you were going to do a one-man show, and that would be insane.
Yeah,
So,
I'm only doing 5 parts, which is sort of like a one man show. Luckily, the movie is going to be playing behind me. And yeah, so that's going to be tomorrow, and that's going to be on Friday Halloween. Um, and yeah, so we are hoping the police will be busy with other things. But yeah, so if this is my last podcast, then um, for a while, then carry on without me, and maybe they'll give me a webcam in my cell. It just depends, but yeah.
I mean, I figured, you're gonna, typecast yourself for Tim Curry's role, and then you have you'll probably run around as the creation. I can see you singing, doing. I know you how much you like Meatloaf, so I figured you'd be playing his role as well. But the other two, I just couldn't figure out who you're gonna be playing. I mean, it's like I know you like to change it up with your voices and stuff like that, but I thought maybe you do Janet. Um, you know,
Yeah, Susan Sarandon's character. I did get Susan Sarandon's blessing to play her character. And then there's one background character that isn't even named, and I'll be that person as well. So yeah, yeah, it's gonna be fun. I still have never seen all of Rocky Horror Picture Show, so I'm fully expecting the staff to get involved. Um, and it's funny, but you can actually build up an immunity to pepper spray. Um, it it takes a while, but you can actually get to where you can't like ever see clearly through it, but you can see like blurry shapes if it's light enough, and so you don't trip over everything as you're fleeing. I know this from what I've heard other people say.
all right. Yeah, we were actually invited. A couple of us were invited to hang out with some other people to go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show a couple weekends ago, and we're like, yeah, that'd be great, but we have a night of karaoke ahead of us, and if we're celebrating a birthday, and then as we're celebrating said birthday, there was a bachelorette party going on in the room next door, and the bachelorette decided to jump in and hang with us while she left like something like 6 or 8 other bridesmaids in the other room, but it was her and her probably her maid of honor, like her wrangler, just coming in. The wrangler's just like, sorry guys, and we're like, dude, it's fine. And so we all just sang for a while. She'd bounce out, then she came back in like half an hour later, started hanging out with us again for another like 4 songs. It was funny. And then the one of the staff was like, excuse me, ma'am, you got to go back to your own room. And we're like, yeah, it's fine. But then on the way out, I was getting us some more drinks, and just her and the maid of honor were out in the hallway again. I'm like, it's fine, just go in. So she just burst back into our room. I'm like, I just found it hilarious that a bunch of randos were more entertaining than her primary group. I'm like, that says a lot.
Yeah.
Uh,
You made me remember that. Well, today at work we had. Um, so so a lot of people do like half days on Friday and stuff. So today was um, the 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 day at work when the most amount of people were going to be there. So everybody decided to dress up for Halloween, and so I went as Spider Man, and we actually had like the most people dress up at work that I've ever seen. Like we usually have like three, four, maybe like 6 or 7, something like that. But it was kind of a coordinated effort, and there was this one supervisor, him and his whole team. Um, so he is kind of a uh, come to find out, he's kind of a guy that goes to Ren fairs pretty often. And so he has a lot of extra gear kind of hanging around. And him and his whole team decided to go as characters from Lord of the Rings. So, so I think he was Gandalf, and they had like a Bilbo, or rather a Frodo, and a Bilbo, and like a couple of elves and stuff like that. And anyway, it was there was a group picture, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's the season is upon us.
So I'm assuming you went as like Marvel's Spider-Man's like naked costume where he's just running around in his boxers and the mask. That was your work appropriate attire.
I went as the anime girl, Spider-Man from Enter the Spider-Verse, into the Spider-Verse. Um,
Penny Parker?
what?
Penny, I think Penny Parker? The girl with the robot spider
Is her
costume?
name Penny?
I thought it was.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to argue with you. Anyway, yeah, I went as that. No, I have a Spider-Man like onesie. It's a pretty good. It's a pretty decent looking costume. Um, but I only wore it for like I only wore it. I wore it to work with my work clothes over it, so I wouldn't be in violation of the dress code. But that didn't really matter. But it was okay. But like the finger, like the fingers on it are really slippery, so I couldn't really do much without. I mean, I could handle my phone a little bit, but it was kind of scary, and I couldn't really type very well. So anyway, I wore it until we took the picture at about like 9:30, and I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get out of this, because this is just not. It wasn't particularly comfortable. It wasn't that uncomfortable, but it wasn't particularly comfortable. So yeah. Anyway, it's I'd like to get like a Green Goblin costume, so I could give it to somebody else to wear, or have like have like a costume pair or whatever. I found a Green Goblin mask. Like there's some cheap crappy ones, right, online. I found one online that's like $150 that looks pretty legit. It's like it's like painted to be like chrome, and it's like some kind of plastic or whatever, but it's like hardy, and it's like really big. I was like, dang, if I wanted to go all the way, that's probably what I would wear. But yeah, anyway, so Halloween, happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to what we've been playing and what we've been finishing, I should say. So, what have you finished?
Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody. We're gonna talk about Ghost of Yote at least one more time. Like at least one more time, and then we'll probably save any more talk about it for another podcast several weeks from now. But anyway, so Ghost of Yote, I finally beat it. It was 58 hours, 52 minutes, I think, so almost 59 hours. And I I think it took me about 3 hours. It took definitely over two, somewhere between like 2.5 and 3 hours to beat Lord Saito. And that's like, I got to him, and so there's a lot of stuff that you have to do, obviously, to toward the end of the game, and it kind of warns you, hey, also, this is your only spoiler warning. Spoiler warning: we're gonna be talking about stuff. Spoiler alert: you fight Lord Saito at the end of this game. But basically, like, so you do a bunch of stuff, and you have to go to his castle and like beat a bunch of his guys, and so you do that, and then you know you kind of win there, but he's not there, and you're like, where is he? Oh, he's back at where it all began, at your family homestead. So I go back there, and I'm like, okay, I know this fight's gonna be really tough, but I prep for it, and then I start to like fight him a little bit, and it is really hard. Um, so it was pretty tough. Again, I'm playing this on hard mode. Um, Early on, I was like, dang, I don't know if I'm going to really be able to do this, but I kind of kept grinding at it. There's two phases. Thankfully, only two phases to his fight. The first phase is like, I mean, the first phase is easier, but you kind of have to make a gamble. Like, so the first phase, I was able to beat eventually, without I mean, within like probably half an hour to an hour or something like that. Um, and then it switches over to the second phase, which is simpler but much more technically difficult. Like, you don't have to do is like, it's like the first phase is like he's using different weapons, and so you have to counter his weapons and stuff like that. The second phase is he's like, okay, you're finally ready for my katana, because he hasn't used his katana at all when you fought him earlier at the beginning of the game, and then like in the first part of the fight. And so you're finally fighting him with the katana, and so you don't have to do any weapon switching, but you do have to be very good with the katana. And so I had to learn his patterns and stuff like that with the second phase. But the first phase, you kind of have to do a gamble. So I would get to where I could do it pretty well, but I wouldn't have that much spirit left. So the first time I really got through it, I only had like one moon of spirit or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll just see how far I can get. And it's really like wasn't enough. And like the second time I was able to get through it, the first phase, I had like 2.5 moons, almost 3 moons of spirit. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll try with this. So whenever you die on the second phase, it just starts you over again on the where you speak, where you came in at on the second phase. So you're kind of gambling on like, well, can I do better on the first phase? I have to go back and like have to abandon this fight and like go back and see if I can do better. And if I can't do better, then it just kind of makes you like make a decision. But I decided to just keep trying on the second phase on the second time when I had a little bit more spirit. And I did get to where I got pretty good at it. But so I fought him over and over and over again, and I got really close sometimes, and I finally got one. I'm skipping over a lot of just like repeated action here, but I finally got one toward, where I actually was able to beat him, but I hadn't used like any of my specialty items. I hadn't used any, like any of the, gosh, the word escapes me. Throwing knives,
consumables, and
yeah,
the quick.
yeah, the quick fire stuff. What is the throwing knives? What are those called? The
kunais?
Yeah, yes, the kunais. Yeah, I hadn't used any of those, and I hadn't used any of the pistol. So those are like the most automatic, like quick fire stuff. That was working for me. So I hadn't used any of that. So I got him down to like a quarter health, and then I was like, okay, I'm going for it, and I just like piled all that stuff on, totally like cheesed it essentially, but like, and then maybe did like 1 or 2 more sword strikes, and then finally got him, and I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, finally it's done. But yeah, so sorry for so sorry that was my experience with Lord Saito, and it was a good fight, but dadgummit, it was pretty freaking tough.
So, what armor were you using?
So I was using the Undying armor.
Okay, I forget what the benefits of that one were.
So look, so like I got Genji's armor, and that really helped me beat the dragon because I had a lot of problems with him. And then I was like, well, okay, I need to go fight. I need to go level up some more. So I went and got Genji's armor, and I was like, oh, okay, so this helps with gunshots. So with Genji's armor, you can actually heal a little bit when they shoot at you if you just block. So the dragon has has times where he shoots at you, and has times where the spider shoots at you. And so after I got that, I was like, oh, okay. So like I died like two more times, and I was like, okay, I got this. And like I pretty much just like wiped through that fight. But so that armor has a lot of defense, has like the most defense in the game. But the problem with it to me was that it doesn't give you as much melee power, and if you learn Lord Saito and you play him right, you actually don't have to worry about the gunshots. He will shoot at you in the second phase and maybe in the first. I can't remember, but definitely in the second. He will shoot at you once and maybe twice if you back away from him a little too much. So like I figured that out, and I was like, okay, well, if I just roll into him and just like keep pressing the attack, then I can actually gain more power in melee striking ability and get him down faster, and have wider parries and like more health overall. So I was like, okay, so if I can just get a little bit good, then I'll probably actually be able to beat him faster. So I just kind of doubled down on that, and I don't know, like the game kind of the game wants you to play aggressively against him, and the game wants you to kind of just hit him over, like hit the fight over and over again, where it's like, okay, I died, so I'm just gonna like keep doing it over and over again. So I didn't really have much. I didn't feel like I didn't feel free to really explore the other armor types. Um, but yeah, but by the end of the fight, there was a couple times, especially in that last fight, but there's a couple times throughout where I would get like some where I would just get like parries, like where I would just like parry perfectly, like perfect parry, nearly perfect parry, and just like do like tons of damage. But there's a part where he gets down to about a third health, where he just turns it on, and he's doing the same attacks, but he's doing them even faster. Like on hard, he does stuff really fast. You have to really have it down the timing just perfectly. But in that last third, he's like, okay, now this is like my secret final form. He just does the same stuff, but it's at a different, higher cadence. And that is where I would like just get wiped out like every time. It's like, okay, I got plenty of health. I got him over halfway. Perfect parry. And he's like, he takes a step back and then just goes, nope. And just like goes to town. And once I finally got that down, I still died like one or two more times to like, when I would actually even get back that far. Oh man. But I don't know. It definitely took me like 3 hours to beat to beat that fight. And I did. So like after I beat him and I saw the end of the game, I did go check out Lord, not Lord, but I did go check out Takezo's fight again. And I was able to do like a little bit better, but I was pretty burnt out at that point. I mean, I'd been fighting Lord Saito like over and over again for 3 hours that day. And I was just like, okay, I can't do this right now. I'm gonna do something else. Takezo might be possible, but it's just a matter of like memorizing it and just getting really good at everything that he does. And I just didn't have it in me at the moment.
Well, see, I think for me, since I ended up platinum it, but I played it all normal. But I fought Takizo really early on. So I didn't have a whole lot of different variants of armor.
Mm.
Um, but I did have the bounty hunter armor, and that's what I used to defeat him. That one is I mentioned to you before. Then I think you probably would have been better off with it because the when you do a perfect parry, it ends up giving you 3 hits, and then for the charm build that I did was uh, like all parry focused to buy myself to get myself more parry window to heal my give a little health after parry. I think the one of the few the non parry essential charms I had was like greater healing. I think I did the Omnio's will full health after. So if I do get downed, I can do a full health. I ended up also having damage when I took damage. I also took I got a little extra spirit out of it, and spending the time to do Takizo, even though like afterwards I didn't really have any other problems. Like when I got to I just kept his armor on the entire time, the bounty hunter armor the entire time, and the dragon wasn't a problem at all. Though the spider, the ladder spider fight at the cemetery, that one gave me more of a hard time, and it really wasn't it's one of the things I'm like, I'm not like if I had just come to it normally without fighting Takizo, I might have been like upset with it. But I'm like, this isn't that hard. I'm just really not finding my right timing. But it did take me way longer. And once that one I had to play hyper aggressive. Like every time I dodged, I would roll into it, and then it would just be uh, instantly to parry or to attack up close and like personal within arm's reach, and
Yeah.
that's how I ended up playing almost that entire that fight. But once I started doing that, that was fine. um Saito was annoying, but it didn't take me nowhere near that long. But at the same time, it's because of the perfect parries. It buys you just enough breathing room. um and my build would get me enough spirit to where if he did do a lot of those flurries, you can always buy yourself a time by doing your super attack, which makes you invulnerable while you're charging. So
Mm.
your triangle circle attack,
Mm.
depending on what weapon you're using. I think on that one, I specifically ended up using sword almost entirely for the second stage two, because he's using his sword, and it's just the poetic justice of using a sword. um, and I did. I'm trying to remember. I used. I did everything. I did all the proper matchmaking prior to that in his first stage. So when he had the Yachty, I ended up using uh the dual swords, the dual katana,
Mm.
and so on. But and I think for the dual katana, just because I ended up using I forget Mount Yote skin for the main katana almost the entire time because I
Mm.
really like that skin. I think I changed it up towards the end, and I can't remember what I changed it to, but I do know my secondary katana. I used it was what's his name from uh, Ghost of Tsushima. I'm forgetting his name now, but I used his katana skin
The
afterward.
Oh yeah, the it's a
Stormbringer,
Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker. Okay, um,
I think it's yeah, I think it's no, maybe I'm thinking of something else, but it's something with the
it's either
storm.
Stormbringer or Stormbreaker or something like that. But anyways, yeah. So
Um,
I ended up getting Jin Sakai's
yeah,
katana.
Gen Sakai, yeah. So I tried the bounty hunter armor when I first got it, but the parry windows were too small. So I was getting beat pretty badly by everybody that by minions, just like it was just I was just like losing all this health. So I was like, these parry windows are just too small. So like that's why I just couldn't bring myself to try it with Saito, because like the regular foot soldiers are really slow, and their parries are very, telegraphed and easy to see. And I still was not hitting those, so I was like, I just like I'm not gonna be able to do it. I might though have to try it with a Takezo though, just because I think it's going to require basically perfect parries anyway. So I may as well, you know, probably uh, you know, sneak out a win with one time that I'm able to do them really well. But yeah, I guess the only other thing I'll say is like this hard mode I think is pretty well designed. Because if you're an average player, I consider myself to be a pretty average player, maybe slightly below average. Um, but like the hard mode basically makes it so that you have to go through and do not like platinum level everything, but you have to go and get everything that they show you on the map. So like whenever you hear about this or hear about that bounty or you hear about this shrine or whatever, you kind of have to go and do it all because every time that I would um not do it all and then go fight a boss, I would get beat pretty badly. And then even when it's like, okay, like I've done everything in this area, I've done everything that I can be possibly done before, I beat this boss. Like everything else is gated after this boss. So I've done everything that I can, and I would still have like several attempts and like several tries to where it's like, okay, I can tell that I am just at the precipice of what I need to be able to beat this boss, at least from my skill level. So yeah. Anyway, so like I found the hard mode to be satisfying in that way, whereas the previous game Tsushima, the hard mode, like it was hard at the beginning of the game, the first 10 or 15 hours, but after hour like 30, 35, it was like this isn't really even affecting anything. Like it's just like I'm mowing through people because I was doing pretty much everything, and I was just like, well, this I'm glad it's on hard because it would just be like, nothing with how much overpowered I am. So anyway, props to them for that. And then the story, ends pretty well, and it's there's more that I could say about the story that would spoil it, but like it does pretty much what it needs to, and it doesn't make any really big screw ups. I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. Though I will recommend when you're looking, look for the charm of Futsu Nushi. It's one of the climbing, the shrine puzzles or jumping scenes, and that one gives you better perfect parry, perfect dodge. Makes them easier.
Mm,
And so I'm not sure exactly how much easier, but it's just one of the ones that I had on me. But also when I had the bounty hunter armor, any of my armors, I always had enough materials to almost instantly like level them up max because by the time I actually started collecting armors, it had been quite a while into the game because I used um, the first armor you get from Taro's armor.
yeah.
I used his almost indefinitely up until uh, at least halfway through the game, and then I switched over to the bounty hunter armor. And then since I played the rest of it with the bounty hunter armor on, it just naturally became easier for me to parry because I was being trained, just by playing the game the entire way that way.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and so I think so it became a little bit more second nature to me. And also because I spent so much time focusing on Takizo, I think, like I said, it was less frustrating for me later on. But there's a handful of charms that really just suit the parry aesthetic altogether. Said giving you extra health, giving you extra time windows, some spirit, uh, those type of things. They all add up, and especially when you're fighting Takazo, because Takazo is like a one hit kill early on, like without a doubt. If you're lucky, maybe two hits. So
I think where I'm at now, he is at the end of the game. I've done everything, as far as like power ups as far as I can tell. He is two hits. I think I think he can get you
Until you get to
once.
stage if you when you get to stage 2 and it gets cold the blizzard happens, he becomes a one-hit kill, like, for you
Yeah.
again because your health take gets a chunk taken out.
I have
I think there's
seen to that point, yeah.
yeah, there's a charm in which, that gets, that can help negate the cold, but I just never used it,
Well,
and
I think you can't fight Takezo unless you have all of his charms equipped.
no, that's the you just that's how you summon him.
Oh, that's how you
You
summon him. Okay.
so you summon him, and then you can just put a different loadout, and you're fine.
Oh,
Uh,
dang. Okay. Okay, then
yeah,
I will do
that's
that. Then I will summon him, and then I will switch over to the because his charms are pretty decent, but yeah, his there's other ones. There's like probably one that I would use for sure, but there's definitely other ones that I would use instead of that.
so I did like n just the way they ended the game where it's essentially, your main character telling a story and then the person going, "Is that it? Like, is there more?" And it's like, "Well, there was quite a bit." So before like, and then they reloads you to before Saito's final battle, and then
Hmm.
that's how you can clear the map for anything else. So I thought that was kind of cute, being like, "All right, well, technically, this is how you can get away with replaying or finishing up, mopping up the areas." But I had finished everything, like literally everything on the map. I collected every item, every cosmetic item there was to collect.
Yeah,
And so for her to have that exact line of dialogue, I'm like, that's a lie.
it's a
I mean,
lie. I am
until
done.
DLC comes, and then like that's my way of getting into it beforehand. I'm like,
Mm,
there is legitimately nothing else I can do. I've played every I went to every gambling den, collected every charm. Uh,
mm,
Yes, I'm pretty confident that I didn't miss anything. Though there are really fun side missions that you or like just random events you can kind of come across. I went back to uh, one of the gambling den slash merchant locations, and there was just a bounty hunter group just waiting for me. Or, like for example, when you go to visit the bear, the dude with his bear, and then how he leaves after after a while. If you go back to visit the bear, you can give the bear some food, and then he'll lead you to like a weapon skin. Um,
okay.
so, like, there's random little things like that all over the place, and it's really fun, and, it was kinda rewarding just to have these little natural things littered about, and there was nothing on the map. Like, one of the first ones I mentioned was just right outside your homestead, on the way to, like, the bridge that needed to be repaired. You just find a random dude who calls himself the Bear of Yote or something like that, and you can either fight him right there, you just, like, scare him away, being like, "Just go away. Like, I'm not gonna deal with you." And then they run off, come back, and then, like, you just randomly meet him later, and he was like, I'm here to face you," and they're like, "Are you sure?" And I think you might be able to just fight him, beat him, but, like or just tell him to go away again. But then the 3rd time you see him, uh, he's in the middle of a battle, so it's just kind of funny. It's just the silliness of some of the encounters, or the one time you decide to do something good, you tell a bounty or a guy's trying to collect bounty on you or on somebody else, and you're like, you can either fight him or tell him to go away. If you tell him to go away, though, unfortunately, when you see him again later, he has been murdering a bunch of people, and then you're like, so then it's your job to take him down. So like I was trying to be nice and I was trying to be good. Turns out that backfired on me. So
Mm, okay.
there was a lot of these little mini things, or like, I did all the bounty hunter missions and stuff like that, and there was a lot to this game. I think it was more fulfilling as a whole. You can even revisit your horse just once though, like after the original horse. If you decided to change horses, I
Mm,
went back to the stable just to say hi. you know, they give you a little snippet, a little dialogue thing. I'm like, ah, that's cute. So, uh, yeah, Sucker Punch did a really good job on this. You know, I want another Infamous game. I've wanted one forever.
mm.
I really like those games, and Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yote, totally worth the times. And I can't wait for them to do something else. Uh, I'm really curious what they'll do, but we'll see. I mean, though, I am glad you finished it. Overall, how would you rate this compared to Yote versus Tsushima?
Um, I I think I enjoyed this one more. There are there are things with about Tsushima that are better. I think that the crew itself, the ideas, like the basic ideas behind the crew that you get in Tsushima is better, but I think that the crew in this one is better fleshed out and better acted. Um, I think that I like Atsu more than Jin. I think that Jin. There's nothing wrong with Jin, but he was just not very. He was not really. He was not really a very complicated character. Um, Atsu is more complicated, and um, and like so from that standpoint, I liked Yote better. Um, I think that I think that it really is Tsushima again, just kind of perfected. And Tsushima was a really good game. I mean, when that game came out, you know, even as I was playing it here in 2025, earlier this year, I was like, this game's pretty much like a perfect PS4 game. Like this game is, there's like, you don't really need anything else with this. And Yote made me go, dang, you really can go like even further. Like there was just like, there was that much more to perfect. Um, you know, not that you really needed to, but it's just like, dang, I didn't think that there was a lot of meat left on this bone, and there really was. So overall, I think that. Oh, and I mean, like really, the hard mode for Yote made the game more fun up to and through the end, whereas literally the last 10 hours of the 52 or so hours that I played Tsushima was like, okay, I'm like, you know, playing with like one eye on like like a basketball game. You know, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're gonna do this. All right, now let me just do that. Okay, yeah, you're going dead. Okay. Oh, I took a hit. Okay, throw. Okay. You know, it just got to be very perfunctory. Um, and there just really wasn't that much of a challenge. So I just think that Yote is just like, it's probably not objectively a better game in the annals of history. Like history will remember Tsushima as the better game because it came from like zero expectations, like nothing, and like was like up here. And Yote is like, it's better, but like it's only like a little bit better, and so it's like there's not like a leap there. But to me, I enjoy Yote more.
Yeah, I think as a gameplay factor, I think Yote's the better game. The I think I still prefer the story of Tsushima better, though I never did play that DLC that came out with the director's cut, the Iki Island
Mm-hmm.
DLC. I really do appreciate, though it was really depressing finding the Jin Sakai reference in Yote. I don't know if you were able to do that.
I
Um,
did get his sword and stuff. Yeah,
that was super depressing, but it's funny because at one point when I discovered it, I was like, I was in the hut or whatever. I'm like, wait, this is the same. It like triggered a blast from the past. I'm like, this is his place at the very end. I'm like, I totally remember the way it was built. He built a new place the same that looked the same, and I was just like, when they tell you kind of fill in the gaps between or like the remaining years. I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool, but that's also really depressing. And how I wish I didn't know that. Because it's like I feel bad for Jin now. Um, the uh, I think as far as challenge goes, though, granted anything is more difficult if you up the difficulty, but I think the the loadout was just so much more extreme on Yote that there's more potential for way more broken builds. Um, and it's just a matter of how much you played with it because when I started because I was trying to upgrade my charms, that's what made me play with different builds. And when I was like trying to upgrade the one of the kunai charms or something like it's like, kill X amount of people with kunais. And I'm like, well, let me just stack this with fire. And then so I'm stacking that with fire, and then I'm throwing out like four kunais at one time with all with fire capable of just one shotting or like devastating the people in front of me. Then just letting me just barely just mow everyone down. Or using the bigger bow and having the auto locking on there. So I'm like shooting like three people at once with auto locking, guaranteeing pretty much insta killing them. Or the smaller bow with throwing fire arrows on them with the quick fire capability, so you don't even have to like
Mm,
pull back. It was like, wow, this game is really set up to be broken. So I think uh my only real, like by this time, if you're listening to this, you probably already beat the game. But if you hadn't and you're kind of curious about it, play with different builds. Look up the great crazy builds that they have because you can go hog wild on some of that and you can really just have a lot more goofy fun. And I think that's one of the playable aspects that make Yote a better game as far as just your flexibility of how you play.
mm,
Um, Once again, Tsushima, just if you did a lot of the side stuff early on, just even in the first little island, you do feel overpowered right away.
mm.
Though the one downside to Yote was I was annoyed that they would give they would hold back some of the weapons and some of the abilities so late into the game where you can barely ever really use it.
Right.
Um, the last real big ability you get is like the Omio's Wrath or something, or it's like when you just rage and then you're guaranteed to like kill like the next three people without even trying. Um, and the only level up you can do for that is you can then make it one less kill easier to get that maxed for that energy buildup. And at that point, I had collected all the shrines. Like I had gotten to the last shrine, and I'm like, I have nothing to put in like this shrine. And then so then when I did get that last ability, I went to that old shrine. I'm like, oh, it's not letting me do it. And then I realized, oh, it stockpiled the last blip of shrine energy to also I can level up. But like or it gives you like the horse charge so late into the game. Or like I don't need the horse charge now, really. It was kind of
There's,
a gimmick
there's
more than anything.
there's no one left on the map like to charge
Yeah.
through. Yeah.
So it was kind of like I feel like that pacing was just a little bit broken. But they really wanted to leave you something so it felt like you're earning towards the end. But I do feel like a lot of people are going to burn out before the last because this game is if you're doing a lot of this, almost everything, it is longer than Ghost of Yotei is longer than Ghost of Tsushima. At least I feel that way, and I think a lot of people just won't make it to the end, which is a shame, or they'll just beeline it to the end and miss a handful of neat little good things like the Jinsekai referencing because they won't go around, or they might miss the shrine where it has all the foxes just hanging out. Every fox that you save turns out there's a spot for them later on that you can pretty much pet them all. So if you want your own little fox village, which is really funny because now that I said that there's more than one uh reference to Sly Cooper.
Mhm.
You get a couple masks and you get a couple skins talking about like reference to Sly Cooper, but then there's also a mural on the wall where it's the foxhound emblem essentially. So it's the fox going in a semicircle like a yin yang with a knife in its mouth, or at least a sword like not the katana, but it's the I forget what you call the short blade now. Anyways, hanging in its mouth, so it's the foxhound emblem. But then on the bottom half of the yin yang, it's essentially Sly Cooper. It's a gray fox with like the thief like hoodie on or like bandana over its head. And so I just thought it was kind of cute, like little stupid reference they do. But there's a handful of these little uh s- graffiti murals essentially in the world, which really feel out of place. But I'm like, all right, they're just poking fun at certain things. Um, but yeah, completely a solid game. It's a great game to come this late in the year, and it's one of the few reasons why you're like, all right, kind of console exclusive games are still worth it. There's still a reason for them, while other companies, primarily looking at you, Xbox, were like, hey, they're not as needed anymore. I'm like, also because you keep on dropping the ball and you keep on like when you come out with something like Halo Infinite, which is nowhere near meets the expectations of people, but when you come out with something like this, you're like, oh, God of War series, stuff like that. You're like, these games are excellent. Um, this is why people this is what creates fanboys essentially. Like there are still fanboys fighting for this. I'm like, I can understand their argument. Um, I'm glad these games are coming out to PC, and they don't have to come out to all consoles, but at least come out to PC. Uh, if only we can talk Nintendo into it, but that's they'll sue anyone else who remotely looks at their stuff on a different piece of tech. So
Yeah. If you talk about Nintendo too much, that they sue you. Yeah.
all right. Well, that's it for what we've been playing. So now, you recently saw something that you were so excited to talk about. So I really want you to unload. So go for it. Have fun.
Yeah. So uh, a few hours ago, I watched a little Netflix movie called A House of Dynamite. So this movie is about okay. Spoilers. Um, spoilers. There's no way to really talk about it without getting into spoilers. So this is your only clean spoiler warning. So the next spoiler warning that I'm going to give though is a bit of a dirty spoiler warning. This movie sucks. This movie's not good. So, um, so so getting into it, this movie is about
This
a
movie's a 4 out of 4 on Roger Ebert, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah, he's a well. So this movie is about the the United States apparatus that deals with that would deal with a nuclear attack or an ICBM attack. So in this film, there is a missile or an object that gets launched from somewhere around the North Korea China area. And there's more on that. They don't exactly know where it came from. There's more on that I'll get to in a second. So this object is flying through the air and it looks like an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile. And so they have about 18 or 30 minutes somewhere in there to deal with it. And it's coming toward the United States. First, they don't know where it's going to hit. And then they triangulate more and more as that, goes along. And they go, okay, it's going to hit Chicago. And so they're like, how many people live in Chicago? Okay, about 10 million people. So there's going to be 10 million people that are going to be dead. Yeah, if and when this thing is a nuke and it hits Chicago. And so that is the basic premise of the movie. So the way that this movie works is in layers where it tells the story in about 30-minute increments, and it tells the same story in 30-minute increments from different perspectives. So the first perspective is from the people who are the lowest level of these high level people. So these are the people who are like in the situation kind of room, who are like, who are talking with the people who are, the watchmen who are in Alaska, who, shoot down, whose job it is to shoot down ICBMs that they may or not come over. And so you have like that layer of people. And then you go up to the next layer of people, which is like the generals and like the admirals and higher level, White House staff and stuff like that. And then you go up to the very highest level, which is the Secretary of Defense at the Pentagon and the President of the United States. And so they tell you the same. So they tell you the same thing over and over again, and they give you a little bit more information with each telling of it, but not a lot more. Not really enough. It's not like it doesn't really like open your eyes to what's really going on. And this, like another spoiler, like this movie doesn't tell you what happens. Like it leaves it on like it doesn't tell you what the president does. Like he is, it comes down to where the nuke is about to hit Chicago, or this object is about to hit Chicago. And they still don't know if it's real or if it's a cyber attack, if it's fake, if it's a mistake. They don't know. They don't know anything. And it's the president's. The president has like this book of, like, from the nuclear football. Like there's a book of this manual of things that he can do, and he doesn't make a decision, and he's like about to make a decision, and that's where the movie ends. So it doesn't have a payoff, really. And I think that's kind of the point that they were kind of going for a little bit, is like the president has to make a decision without knowing all the information. And so, like, okay, I get that. So this movie, apparently, people are saying, was extremely well researched. And they did so the director for this movie, I forget her name, starts with a K, but she directed The Hurt Locker, which is pretty good.
Catherine Bigelow?
Yeah. So she directed The Hurt Locker, which is pretty good. She happened to win Best Picture and Best Director for that. And I saw it. I saw it when it came out in theaters. I thought that movie was pretty good. I didn't really expect it to win Best Picture. I'd have to go back and look at who else was up that year. But I was kind of like, okay, we're going to give it to The Hurt Locker. Okay. I mean, you could do worse, but okay. Like when I was watching that movie, I didn't go, like, I wasn't thinking like, this is the best movie of the year. It just didn't feel like that to me, but whatever. She also directed Zero Dark 30, which is pretty good. I remember it being entertaining when I saw it. Yeah, but it was not as good as The Hurt Locker. I can pretty confidently say that, at least in my own opinion. And so she doesn't make very, very many movies, but she's got pretty good chops. I mean, she's definitely knows how to make a movie. And this movie does feel like a good movie. Like when you're watching this movie, it's like, okay, this feels like, the pacing is right, and the acting is really good. The acting is pretty great. It's shot well. It doesn't really waste your time from like a movie creation sense. Except that the whole movie is kind of a waste of your time. So that's sort of two sort of weird things that are going to rip your brain apart if you think about it too hard. So I'm not going to do that. So anyway, this movie people are saying this movie is well researched. I Googled around a bit, and there are plenty of dissenting opinions. There are some experts that pointed out that there are some different actions that they would have taken, that the White House, the president, the chiefs of staff, the generals, there's some different actions that they would have taken at certain points. And they were like, we wouldn't do that. We would do this, or we wouldn't do this. We would do that. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking as I was watching the movie. So I'll go back to one of my chief qualms with this movie. So the movie begins right? And the missile has launched, and there's an object flying through the air that looks, it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it looks like an ICBM. Um, and they knew immediately that the that there was a satellite that was responsible for the area that that the missile launched from. Well, that satellite went down right before the missile was launched, and then so it went down, and then the missile was launched. And I'm kind of like, I don't know what the protocol is, but to me, that's like a mega act of war. Like that's not like a mistake. That's like we definitely have a satellite that went down. And they were definitely trying to cover up where the missile was coming from. So to me, like from that point, if I'm the president, I'm like, launch the missiles. Like just like take
At what
out
though? Oh, I'm playing devil's advocate though, but if you don't, you just know that the satellite went down. Launched missiles at the hemisphere.
North Korea, at North Korea
I mean,
and pretty
you have
much
North
the
Korea,
eastern
China, and
seaboard
Russia
of
all in that area. That's why they put it in the movie is
yeah,
to hint
yeah, yeah.
that
So,
all our enemies there. You can't figure out
and
who's who. It's always the
yeah,
same.
but I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling bullshit. Like there would be, I think there would be some kind of immediate counterstrike, even before the missile landed. And like I just
That's not the case. It's never been the case of just being an immediate counter strike. And that's within, and you talk about within the half hour between their missile launching and like I hadn't seen this movie, but
there
just
would be
listening to you,
something. There would be something.
there
This
wouldn't.
is
There would not.
there.
I'm just saying there would not. You would think there would be, you hope there would be, but bureaucracy being bureaucracy, there's no such thing as an immediate thing, especially when you don't know you can't confirm who your enemy is. You would hope there would be, but there isn't because you have no, you haven't confirmed who your enemy is. If
So
you do know who it is, then you can maybe do something. But once again, when in the history of bureaucracy has there been an immediate reaction?
so it's obviously North Korea because China and Russia have too much to lose. They have too much to lose and not enough to gain. So like that was just like obvious to me right there. The 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 other thing about this movie is that it is constantly trying to explain how things work to you, the audience member, through people that know exactly how things work. And so it's like that person would not ask that question. That person would know the answer to that. That person would not be wondering where this comes from or where that comes from or whatever. And they do pop up words on the screen to tell you like some of the things they're talking about, but it's just like, okay, you couldn't have like somebody in here by like some like, I don't know, some new person in here to explain things to. You have to like let the like at one point the Secretary of Defense asks a lower level guy what the percent chance that our missile intercepting their missile would have to work. And I was like, he would know. He would already know what percent chance that that
He
is.
would know because someone would have to tell him. He'd have to get the information. He wouldn't have that mathematical number off the top of his head. In fact, this question literally came up about the whole, um, Iraq, or not Iraq. I'm sorry, the Israeli-Palestine bit where where people trying to pin people about numbers and percentages. It's like, um, and especially when it comes to a statistical chance, it's like uh, base every time there's depending on where the missile's coming from, how much time you have to intercept, there's going to be a different percentage chance. So it's, you have a overall chance that the missile is going to hit X amount of times in theory, but at the same time, depending on where it's coming from, weather, this, that, the other thing. I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate here,
I
but
know.
you're
I
putting way too much into this. You're way too invested in a movie, and you're angry about it, and that's why
It's
I'm like,
just
oh yeah.
so stupid. It's just so stupid.
No, I think that would be I think that's a lot I think that's a logical thing to ask, being like, "Hey," because guess what? He's not crunching numbers, he's not looking at the, like, looking at this, he's asking someone else whose job is to crunch numbers, "Hey, what's this percentage?" Plus, I would rather have them do that in a movie than have to have a new intern, being explained everything to, because why is this intern even here? Get him out. Or, like, there to have an insert for us, for a new person. But I think something like that, to
So
be able to explain, even if you had like the president being like, "What's this? Why is this?" Having some of these simple questions, like a lot of times that's looked at as maybe being stupid, being like, "Well, it's the president. They shouldn't have to. They should already know this stuff." Like, no, they don't, because
So
there's a lot of other
the
stuff like.
reason why I know that the director of the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense, would know this number is because I knew this number. It was about 50-50. The actual number is like 61%. And he goes, "It's a coin flip. That's what $50 billion buys you." And I'm like, "Yeah, you idiot. You know this." Like, and of course the Pentagon was like, "No, that's not true. It's 100%." I'm like, "Well, that sounds like propaganda." But the Secretary of Defense would know that it's not 100% and that it's probably around a coin flip. He wouldn't be completely surprised. He'd be like, "Okay, 61%. Okay, that's worse than I thought." Or he'd be like, "Okay, that's better than I thought." And that brings me to the final thing that like I really hate about this movie, and that is it's linked to how stupid people are in this movie, but how the people in this movie um, are kind of too scared to do their jobs. Not everybody, but like the president is completely pathetic. He is completely like frozen in fear. He doesn't know like what to do. He's like stalling. He's like asking people that she shouldn't be asking. That's pretty bad. Um, the, there are people who are like in these rooms, like military people who are like kind of having a hard time like doing their job and holding it together. There's so there's a movie called the Sum of All Fears. It's a based on a Tom Clancy book, and so they made a movie about it, right? And so there's a part in that movie where something really bad happens. So I won't spoil that movie, but something really bad happens, and the most powerful people, like the president, the vice president, blah blah, they're on Air Force One, and so they're dealing with this really bad thing that has happened, and they are losing their minds. Like they are panicking, they are yelling at each other, and they get it, and they get it back down, but they are like screaming at each other for like a little while. And I remember reading in an article later or hearing about it later that Tom Clancy was like, so so the movie is really accurate and it sticks to the book and everything like that, except for one part. And the part that he said is that like in all of his research that 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 those people would not be losing their minds like that. They would not be coming apart. Even when something like really bad happens, like they would be like doing their job, performing, like maybe under like they would not be under like emotional distress, but they wouldn't be just coming apart at the seams like freaking you or me, who has like no idea like what to do. Like they would be on it. And I just feel like way too many people in this movie have no idea what they're doing, how they're doing it, and have not as much emotional control as I think is more realistic. So it's just like,
Well,
it,
anytime there's a movie with the president, unless if it's run by Harrison Ford, the president never knows what to do, in any movie. It's because that's how Hollywood works. That's how you build up tension. I mean, this, so when it comes to, uh, a similar movie or similar thing to this kinda reminds me of, George Clooney TV movie. I think it was called Failsafe. It was like early 2000s. And I think it was just some like a I remember it being like a made for TV movie. Whatever network had it had like blaring commercial intermissions being like this thing is all fictitious because they didn't want like a War of the Worlds thing where people come in blindly thinking this is supposed to be a real thing, and it's the idea of like a an object coming at us and us, the protocol coming in, and also what to do, counterattack, how to intercept when fighter jets go dark. Like they're like, okay, we are now past the point of no return, and we are under no command or like no outside influence are supposed to stop our mission. But the idea of everyone being hesitant is because no one wants to start a world war. No one wants to start nuclear. No one wants to wipe out an area off the map without.
I
Uh,
do.
uh
Just
I mean, well, it's once again, it's your armchair quarterbacking, so like that's easy enough to do.
so
Um,
I did look it up, and one thing that the security experts said is that so the movie makes it look like it's like the president has to make a choice before the missile hits Chicago, and the security experts said that's not accurate. Um, there's a lot of second strike capability that we have now, so that if the United States government essentially was taken out and there was no chain of command, that there's a lot of individual like boats and subs and aircraft and bases that could launch missiles if they wanted to. So it's like, okay, well, I guess that lends credence.
That's always the sci-fi credit of why we all go to nuclear winter is
Well,
because when we retaliate, they retaliate, and then vice
well,
versa, and things are out of control.
right. So that does lend credence to like we wouldn't just like shoot at that area, just like blindly. I would because it's North Korea, obviously, but so there's that, and then the other thing that they said that I now have forgotten is the second strike. Oh yeah, that like I don't know how they know this, but I guess because radioactivity has a signature based on the area, but basically they said that after the bomb after the ICBM hit Chicago, that they would be able to tell where it came from based on the radiation signature that would be given off. So once the bomb hit, they'd be able to pretty quickly, they said, tell where it came from and then give the president new information and then go off of that. So I
So
was like,
the one thing I didn't
okay.
ask is that supposed to be current day and age? Like, is there or is this supposed to be like set back in a alternate past?
As far as I can tell, it's supposed to be 2025.
Okay, because and then so there was nothing in this about like intercepting, no forms of like
They
uh
did. So that's the thing is that's the whole thing is the intercepting capability is they I forget the acronym that they use. It's like GIS or GSI or something like that. Basically, they shoot up two missiles. So the ICBM was traveling at 6 kilometers per second, and these missiles that they used to intercept, they only shot two, and they gave a reason for that. But they shot two, and they were traveling at 10 kilometers per second. The first one, they I didn't really understand what went wrong, but it sounded like the first one was that its payload did not launch from the rocket properly. So it's like it goes up and then it has to break off and then launch it like again, and like that failed. But the second missile, intercepting missile, worked properly, was supposed to intercept, but then the impact was negative. So they were like, okay, so it missed, but that just like lends like more evidence to the idea that it's like a cyber attack and that it's like not that it's not real, that like because it's like, well, the missile like should have hit, but there was like a negative, like there was like a negative on the impact. So maybe it didn't hit because there's nothing there, you know? So anyway, but like, so they,
And then if it's a cyber attack, and so that's the thing is you never know throughout the whole thing. So then you're like, let's bomb some people for a cyber attack that they didn't do. And that's why you don't
It's
run.
just North Korea, Joe. I mean, come on.
Once
Like,
again, it's like it's easy for Hollywood to pin that area because and once again, it's just like you can have it be China, you can have it be Russia. Either way, it's the good old America versus communist infrastructures. So that is it's an easy scapegoat for any Hollywood film. It's I liked it because when it was it when we did the video game based off of America being invaded, and I'm drawing a blank on the title off the crap. It was they had a sequel. Uh, it was. I just know that what they did is it was North Korea coming to America, doing a
Red Dawn.
during. Well, no, that was Cuba. That was Russians going through Cuba. That
Okay.
was the movie. But it's the same writer, essentially. But they did two different games. But the first one, the initial invasion was from North Korea. In Japan, what they did is not to pin North Korea. They had it set so America was being invaded from the country from the northern country or country from the north,
Hmm.
which makes it sound like Canada invades us, which was hilarious.
What was that game called? I forget. It's on the tip of my tongue too. But yeah.
Home front,
Home.
home.
I think it was
Is it home?
Home Front.
Yeah. And then they made a sequel, which I never got to play that one. But the first game was okay. It's just uh pretty simple, but yeah, once again, when it comes to these kind of stories, it's all about suspense. It's all about the what ifs, will they, won't they? What would you do in this situation? And the fact that you got so riled up over it is a net win for them. Um, Overall, this has been seeming to get pretty good traction, and a lot of people pretty much seems to have liked it across the board.
I think it's like
I
56% on Rotten Tomatoes. Is
78.
78% on Rotten Tomatoes? Well, it's fucking awful. Like it's terrible. And no, they did not win, Joe. I won because I gave it a thumbs down. So there.
Yeah, it's not only a 78 it's 78 on both the from the critics and from the viewership. Uh IMDb gives it a 6.5 out of 10. I am not a big fan of these kind of films anyways. It's every movie where the president is held
78.
hostage
Okay.
for some stupid codes for all the time. Um it always irks me because when the president himself is held hostage, I'm like, just cut your losses, let's move on. And then or when the president has their staff held hostage and they're like, oh no, I'm going to give up the codes for my staff. I'm like, no, they know what they signed up for. It's their loss. You just shut your mouth. You cut, like you literally cut it off and then you go to the next person. But that would ruin all the movies. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's anyways. I know like the US would never want to have lost a president that way, but if it's the matter of nuclear code or the president, you just say goodbye to the president and move on. And
Uh,
you put a statue in their honor,
he
a
died a hero.
scholarship foundation.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. They died a hero keeping the secrets, which really they didn't keep the secrets, or even if it's like you'll never know. But you just get a new president in, and then you give them the new codes.
Yeah.
There you go, done.
I
And
just think there's too much bullshit in this movie. Like
um,
it's just it's stupid. I haven't hated a movie in a long time, but I mean it's compelling. Like if you don't know anything about anything, then I guess you're like, okay, I guess that's how it would work. I guess that's how it would work. But I was just like, none of this really rang true to me. Um, but you know, okay, well,
yeah, all right. Uh, I mean, Netflix, you get what you pay for, and you're paying a lot. So
I mean, yeah, I mean, like like whenever I saw this movie was like coming out, I was like, oh, that looks kind of good because it has a lot of really good actors in it, and they do their jobs well. The actors do at least. Um, But so I was like, oh, that looks kind of good. And then I was like, oh, it's coming straight to Netflix. And I was like, oh, probably not going to be that great then, you know? And yeah, it was not. But yeah, okay.
All right. Well, on a lighter front, uh, I also equally didn't like what I saw, but it's nowhere near as to the point of you, you and yours.
You're
Uh,
not as triggered as me. Yeah.
yeah. So there's um talking about the world of anime. There's still a bunch of new stuff coming out all the time, and this current flavor of the week, uh, it's called "With You." Our love will make it through. And at first, I didn't know what to think about this. I mean, you see on the cover, shojo girl next to anamorphized dog guy, uh,
And
built
he's
like German Shepherd esque, coloring or pattern. The coloring is blue though, freaking blue, and that's the part that triggered me. I'm like, of all the stupid colors, you just made your dog character blue, and I sent you a thing where like it's the Homestar Runner, strong bad email where he's like talking about have you ever seen anime, and he's just like he goes through the descriptions of like if I was an anime character, I'd have a round head, and I'd have giant eyes, and my mouth would be ridiculously huge or really small. And it's just like, and I'd have to have blue hair. You got to have blue hair. And it's just like, and that's exactly what came to my mind. I'm like, why is this dog blue? I mean, you see other dog people like, but they're normal. There's like, like normal dogs, and like, but this one's freaking blue. Um, and at first I'm like, this isn't so bad. This is he just looks like a more put together was that Legoshi from Beastar, and like who I'm not a fan of. And then as the episode keeps on going, I'm like, okay, never mind. I'm like, this is not as good as like I was hoping it would be. Uh, like she ends up seeing this dude with his shirt off, and she's like, he's shredded because he has a six pack. He's a dog
fur,
person with a six pack.
furry six
Um,
pack. Yeah.
yeah, and then essentially it's sheltered girl for like falls for first half naked guy she sees.
Mm,
By the time you get to the end, some school bullies essentially try to lock him in the storage shed. Well, lo and behold, she's in there too because they were cleaning up the gym equipment, and um, they're in close proximity for each other. And like Legoshi, which these things just seem to be a way of uh, the creators to put their fetishes out in the world. They're like, hey, he smells her and now he's losing all animalistic instincts, and he starts to lick her because that's what a dog does, right? And I'm like, so it's okay to sexually assault somebody if they kind of like it. I'm like this is wrong in every sense of the form, what you because if you just change, do a character swap and make them, I don't know, the receding hairline, 50-year-old teacher or something like that, or old man, like then all of a sudden, like it's a creepy horror movie, right? But it's because it's six pack ripped teenage dog boy that it's okay. And I'm like, this isn't them falling in love. This is her literally having her first contact with somebody who happens to be hot, and therefore she accepts it. Like it's dumb, and it's another stand-in for puberty, essentially. Like, hey, we don't know, like it's like you don't know how to control yourself because you're this is the beast within you. I'm like, this is so dumb. This is not an allegory. This is just this is subtle as Kojima writing. I mean, and it's like all I can think of is like, oh, Japan, like that old, it's like meme. It's just like anything. What the hell? That's all there is to it. It's just sad. Um, but it's in shoujo art style, so it's okay.
I
It's
mean,
not okay.
yeah. Looking at this, it does have a good quality to the drawing. At least, it is shojo or whatever, but yeah, the characters seem to be drawn pretty well, I guess. But yeah, the this Blue's Clues, dude is too much. for me.
Yeah.
But
Once again, it's after this first episode, I'm like, all right, there. It's the not so subtle hint. I mean, it's like Franz and Darling or whatever. It's the B Star. It's everything's just like um it's just a stand-in for like we never were taught puberty like in any real sense, so we are just expressing it through this. um it's just so broken. All right, that's it. I'm not going to harp on this any longer. And let's see here. You happen to erase what I the other thing
sorry,
I was
sorry.
there you go. You fixed the docket there. Okay, this one. Uh, Tojima Tanzaburo wants to be a masked rider or common rider. Uh, this is really stupid, and I really love it. It's so essentially what it is. Uh, kid person as a kid sees Common Rider and wants to live up to be this superhero. So imagine you watching Power Rangers or whatever and be like, when I grow up, I want to be a legit Power Ranger. And he then physically tries to live his life and physically train to be said, in this case, Common Rider. Obviously, Common Rider is not real. They realize it's not a real thing, but they are just purely driven by their one-sided passion. Um, there happens to be some bank robbers, or not bank robbers, just I think they're just convenience store like thefts, but they wear baklavas and they do the old henchman salute from Common Rider, which is a squeal and like an arms out salute. And there happens to be a string of these thefts, and there's a bunch of copycats. He happens to be at a festival when one of these things happens, and so at a festival in Japan, they have a lot of these masks for sale. They usually have different superhero masks. They'll have different magical girl masks and stuff. And so he happens to cover his face, and he gets to put on Common Rider mask, which gives him the joy and the power of he finally gets to be the hero that he's always wanted to be. And he beats up these guys. And then he realizes everyone's staring at him because he just literally did the Common Rider kick, and then he just bolts. Um, that's the gist of more or less episode one. It turns out there's more people that you find out that both sympathize with the other heroes and the villains to boot. Uh, and so this is really dumb, but it's really funny. And the way they show the old clips from the old Common Rider series. We're talking like the series from like the 60s or whatever.
Mhm,
Uh, it's almost rotoscoped. It's really weird. It's like they took because the anime styling is meant to look like old film,
mhm,
and I really appreciate it actually. Uh, I have no I have no real passion for Kamen Rider exactly, but I do think that's neat because it's such a long running series that some of these things like people are really fans of, like in its enduring series. That's like Doctor Who fans to a certain extent, right?
mhm,
Um, so or like Star Trek or anything like that. And so in this case, it's like I have an appreciation for those who can appreciate it. Um, but it's played straight, and it's like self-aware because it knows, like I said, the characters know that it's not something you can do in real time. And episode 2 just talks about focuses on a, teacher who she grew up watching Common Rider, and there was a female heroine, and therefore she has modeled herself after that, and it's equally silly and entertaining. So I'm really liking this so far. And once again, it's not going to win any awards, but it's just a good time to watch. So, uh, especially after seeing that other one I mentioned, I'm like, yeah, this is great to watch this because it completely uh, makes everything lighthearted and it's a good laugh. Uh, all right, I recommend giving this one a watch. It's in English. There's 2 episodes out of 4 right now. So totally worth if anything else, it's worth a second screen experience. So there's really no reason not to.
okay,
But yeah, all right.
good deal.
That's it for the anime right now. I've bounced off of a few already, very
Mhm.
hard. I made you go through one of them so far.
Man,
I
yeah, I'll just talk about that real quick. I watched the first episode of Ninja versus Gokudo. It is, you were right, it is completely awful. Like, the voice acting is really awful. This is from Amazon, right? So voice acting is really awful. Um, I do think that the voice actors are bad, but I do think that they are trying kind of hard, and that the actual writing, the dialogue is just, it's just unsalvageable. Like, there's no way that you could, even if you were a good actor, really make this dialogue work as it is written. It is, you could find different ways to say it maybe, but that would actually be better. But like, it is just completely awful. The animation is stilted. It's not really, they're not really doing very much, but at least the, freeze frames of it are not really bad. Like the actual draftsmanship is not bad. It's
I think it's terrible. I think the art's just trash.
it's
I
pretty, it's not good. Like, it's not like especially good, but it's not especially awful. It's just simple. Um and the animation is not really doing too much, but then the like story itself, like the, is just so boilerplate. It's just like ancient.
I think I originally told you it was like written like as a middle school angst. It's like a first draft of a story um, from a kid in middle school or maybe high school with the same art skills. It's like I feel like that this did not get go through any revisions at all. It's just like we're just taking it wholesale. Like, oh, you gave us your manuscript. Cool. We're not even going to look at it. We're just going to go straight to publication with this.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's very like middle schoolers first anime storyline. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
well, the after watching, I think it was 4 episodes now of this, which I hate my life, therefore that's why I watch it, I guess. No, it's mostly it it really does change your perspective. And you're like, oh wow, I used to think this was a certain level of bad. For me, now this is like the new bottom. I'm like, this kind of scrubs the takes steel wool to the brain and makes you come back and looking at things in a whole new light. Uh, I think the last maybe 2 seasons of anime ago, it was um something like the beginning after the end. It had a really good story, but the animation quality was like the character design was, it was okay, but
Mhm.
the actual animation was lacking, as in there was a lot of PowerPoint, like jump cuts to people in middle fights. But it's like, all right, instead of showing you somebody running and punching, we're just going to jump cut to them punching and then jump cutting to them now throwing the person, but it's a single animation, not actually fluid animation. Uh, and after watching that, it kind of broke my brain in a way, being like, every time I see just fully animated from point A to point B, them doing something, I'm like, I give people credit now for that. I'm like, good job. You showed them, like running to somebody and punching them or going from left side of the screen to the right and you transition camera angles. Oh wow. You know,
You can do a
uh
walking animation.
I
Yay.
know.
Thank
And
you.
the thing is the story was really good for that one, but it's just the actual, there was no animation. It was like it made no sense. So that kind of reset the boundaries on that one. This one's just like the quality in it for everything else is so mind-numbingly bad in my opinion that I just I can't stand it. And I've watched it to this point. I'm like, how bad can it get? Like, it sure it's one of those things. It I kind of want it to get worse. That's the sick part. Is it's like a train wreck or something like that. Like, I'm kind of expecting and wanting it to go even further because there's not really, even if you try to salvaging it, there's nothing you can do to really make it good. So you can go from, you can maybe make it like tepid, but I'm like, no, no, I just kind of want this train wreck to now just put gasoline on the fire and make it go up even worse. Um, Ninja versus Gokudo, like it's is new trash tier for me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. And I appreciate you watching at least one episode of it just to see how funny or how bad it can get.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, all right. So now that we've gotten all our complaints out of the way, for this week, Nick, what can we complain about with the news?
I just keep thinking about, like, if there was an ICBM in the air, Russia and China and North Korea would all be on the phone, would all be frantically calling the United States saying, it's not us, it's not us, it's not us, because they would fear reprisal. But they don't do that in the movie. So it's whatever. All right. So
because they're all working together. That was the thing that you didn't realize. They formed a new trifecta union, and so we'd have to
so
take
I
them all
was
out.
right. So I was right to nuke them all. Oh well, it is what it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Next things next. So the news. There's been some news that the next Xbox is basically going to be a PC. I don't have the story pulled up right in front of me, so I can't remember his name. But there's a guy that works at Microsoft who gave a speech commercial or whatever, and basically it's kind of hinting at some of the next Xbox stuff. And that basically so we can surmise that it's basically going to be a PC because it's going to be able to play Steam games. It's going to be able to obviously play Xbox games and stuff like that. But because it's able to play Steam games, it's going to be able to play PlayStation games or Sony games whenever they come over to Steam and stuff like that. And so it's like, okay, that's it. That makes sense from a lot of the things that we've seen over the past couple of years. So a couple of years ago, at least I think it was a couple of years ago, there's a big rumor going around that basically Xbox was not going to make any more consoles. That this was pretty much it, and that they were going to stop making consoles. And Xbox was like, no, we're going to make consoles. We're going to make consoles. But to me, this is basically those people saying that they're not going to make any more consoles being half right, at least in the near term, because like if it can do all these things, then I mean they're going to have to box it in pretty hard for it to not really be a PC, to be able to play Xbox games and play Steam games. I mean, I guess you can design a console that's really going to do that, and do those things and only those things. But it's probably also going to be, geared up for Game Pass and stuff like that. And it's going to probably have a web browser, and, it's not really going to be a PC the way that like my PC is or your PC is, but it's kind of going to be a PC with like a border around it, more or less, is what it sounds like. And just based on the other things that we've seen with the way they have kind of split the difference on the new Xbox Series S and X, and the way that they've talked about how the next Xbox quote console is going to be a premium, like high grade, premium gamer type tier sort of thing. So it's like, okay, so you're going to put a lot of muscle in this console so that it can do a bunch of PC type things. And you're going to charge a lot for it. So it'll probably actually be able to do a little bit more than like a standard, like only play video games and like watch, some, app channels or whatever. It's going to be able to do a bit more than that. So yeah, it remains to be seen how much of it is all really, how it's all really going to go down. But it's a strange move to me. I mean, it remains to be seen. I can see a world where this comes out, the next Xbox comes out, and it's like, okay, they're doing something good here. They're doing something I like here. But right now, I'm just pretty thoroughly confused.
Well, I mean, Xbox, their leadership has been kind of all over the place where with their messaging, the whole this is an Xbox push, them claiming when they were called out about making a new console, and their retort being like, this is going to be like the greatest leap in a generation. ever, which doesn't make a lot of sense because in order to do so much, uh, like it's them. It was like when it was said, the instant thing that came to my mind was that's BS. Because to say that it's the greatest generational leap, now with people being like, okay, with AI or with there's a lot they could do behind the scenes to polish it up. Like all right, that's fine, but I don't think unfortunately, they said they misspoke, and therefore they're always going to be held to that standard of this is what you said. You're like, without it them being like, okay, our bad, which they'll never say. They'll never be like, this is my fault. We said the wrong thing. We take that back. But no one, you can never take back anything like that because uh, it would hurt your brand too much. Instead, you just rather take the loss at the end. Um,
Yeah.
and Xbox being like, "All right, we're coming out with our own individual handheld, but also we're having someone else help make us a handheld," which like that doesn't make a lot of sense. And then they're like, "Okay, they came out with our handheld, and we're canceling our personal handheld," which like that makes more sense. Um, but then one of the big things was the ROG Ally, or ROG Xbox Ally X. Like you know, big shocker, Windows is a slow, UI for it. If you run it with Linux, it runs over 30% faster.
Hmm.
Like, it's like, thank you, essentially, I guess, thank you, Steam, for making Linux better now because of the Steam Deck. Because that's the thing is a lot of games and are being customized to run on the Steam Deck, which is now an older piece of machine.
Hmm.
Uh, but also it made leaps forward as far as people focusing on Linux, making it more viable. Also, Windows as a whole has been with their recent end of life for Windows 10, push for Windows 11, all that stuff has been really garbage. More and more people are leaving Windows,
Hmm.
and uh, Microsoft just doesn't know what it's doing. That's all there is to it. I think that in the end, Microsoft is by saying we're making a premium product and it's going to be like expensive. That lets everyone that rips the band-aid off, being like, be surprised. Don't be surprised. It's going to be $1,000.
It's going to be
It's
a
going to be like,
thousand dollars.
yeah, it's like as a minimum $1,000. And but then they're like, well, why don't you just get a PC? Well, the thing is, at the bulk, they can buy the hardware for an Xbox. It'll still be cost effective instead of $1,000 PC. It'll $1,000 Xbox will run a lot of things. Things are going to be targeting that spec. Also, you're going to get it's more streamlined. In with a when you buy a motherboard, like an expensive motherboard, it comes with a bunch of stuff that you don't need necessarily on an Xbox. You don't need a bunch of extra PCI Express slots. You don't need a bunch of USB ports or stuff like that. It's just like you get what you need, and they can save. That's how they have extra cost savings because you can get an equivalent PC motherboard, but because they trim all these extra things, they get it at a better price. Theoretically, it comes back to you. And as if you're someone who doesn't want to tinker with Windows, or who doesn't want to mess around with why is my game not running properly, or it's not optimized, or do I have to do a billion updates for this that like I have to update my Bluetooth, or it's a one stop shop. Everything will update on its own. You don't have to think about it, and that's why console. That's the appeal of a console.
Hmm.
Um, Unfortunately, I think it's going to be harder and harder to make it an appeal of an Xbox because yes, they may make something just to throw simple numbers, or like if you're going to use it as an equivalent, hypothetically, if all of the current generation of consoles are like the Nvidia say 50, 60 cards, and then Microsoft comes out with their new super expensive thing and it's the equivalent of a 5080, so it's twice as high. I'm like, that's great, but most people are going to be targeting the 5060 variant, and so everything's going to be optimized for that. And now you do have the headroom to really play, and those who want to optimize their game will let you optimize it, and it will run things better. But as a whole, everyone's going to just have a grand old time off the 5060 versions of whatever current console generations because they were built around that. Um, and of course, the big fear of next generation consoles are going to be um, the current generation consoles are gonna last even longer than the previous ones did, and the previous ones lasted long because of COVID, but more and more people don't wanna upgrade so soon, especially since a lot of people bought it towards the end of during or end of pandemic. uh, it's only been a handful of years that so you're looking
And if
at
it's,
5 years, so
like if like you paid $600 for like a PlayStation 5, or was that what an Xbox Series X was? Was also 600? Was it, or was it more? 650?
I don't know, I bought mine secondhand.
Okay.
I don't remember anymore.
Well,
So I got mine with a killer deal is what I got
let's
mine.
just say even it was 650, but around 600, 650. And then so you're, maybe you bought it at launch, whatever. So 7 years later, um the Xbox whatever comes out, and it's, yeah, I mean, they're saying it's going to be premium. That means it's going to be $1,000. Like, I just, maybe 900, but it's like if you paid like 600 or 650 and now you're paying 900, like it's entering a different zone. And I don't think inflation, I don't think purchasing power, blah, blah, all that GDP stuff has really caught up with that price point at $1,000. And I think, but like, I just, like, especially if it's not like, if Sony is willing to take a bit of a haircut and they're willing to basically have pretty close to the same power, but it's only, $900 or, 850 or whatever they ended up deciding on, um then like, I just, it's weird. I think that they're setting, that like Xbox might be setting themselves up for failure. Um, and I think that the reason for all of this is really the Microsoft aspect, because like Microsoft owns the business landscape. Like, their business software is, I don't even know if anybody even tries to compete with that stuff anymore. Like Outlook, Excel, Word, and then like PowerPoint and even some of the other stuff like Access and stuff. Like, does anybody even really? I mean, I guess Google has like Google Mail, Gmail that people, and Google Suite that people try to use for like business and stuff. But like, I think that pretty much everybody up to a certain size, like after a certain size, just is like, we just have to go to Windows, like Outlook and stuff. I just, like, that seems to be their bread and butter. So they seem to be making a lot of money off of that. And so like they have that business, and then they have this video game business, and they don't really seem to want to be in it. They seem to just want to make money off of it, but not like really do it. And a lot of this stuff that we're seeing with, they're partnering and then they're buying Activision and then they're doing this and they're doing that. They just kind of feel like they're mailing it in and trying to buy their way to success. And the way that they're laying people off left and right, canceling projects, canceling studios, or closing studios. I mean, this has been going on. It's kind of come to a head. It's been a lot recently, but they've been canceling big time games for a decade or more, maybe 15 years. Like like Scalebound, that was a Platinum game that they're working with Platinum on that. That was a big deal. That was a gigantic deal whenever that got canceled. They just like freaking were like, well, we're just going to cancel this. Like, that was supposed to be a kind of a flagship, or nearly like a flagship game, at least a very important one. And they tried and they couldn't make it work. But it's like, would Sony have let that happen? Like, I feel like it. I feel like not. I feel like they would have turned it into like something smaller, or they would have, they it wouldn't have just been a colossal, just like, oh well, throw up our hands. And it just seems like it seems to be all that Xbox does these days.
Yeah, it's I mean, the Series X did launch at 500, currently sitting at 600 MSRP.
Okay.
You got their ROG Xbox Ally X being $1,000. I mean, you have PlayStation, the Pro, 'cause we all, was up in arms because they're now what, $750
Yeah,
US.
750. Yeah.
So, by everyone increasing the base floor. I mean, you even got, like the Switch coming out at was at 450 or whatever. So, it's not going to be that surprising that Xbox comes out with a new one at a grand. I
And,
mean, they already have it with an Xbox name at a grand. So it's not like, oh, so they've already kind of gotten us used to these high numbers.
and
Um,
and that too, like that just makes me think like if Sony was like, we're planning to launch ours at 850, and then Xbox, comes out and says ours is going to be $1,000, then Sony's going to be like, well, we may not do 950, but we can easily do nine. We can be $100 cheaper and still look good and make even more money than we thought we were going to, you know. So like, I just feel like Xbox is going to screw us that way, if they do come. I mean, maybe they won't. Maybe their premium is like 900 or even 800 or something like that. They're just talking incorrectly again or something. But when I hear premium and I do the math like you just said $1,000. Like we hadn't even talked about that. We both just knew like when we heard that it was going to be like $1,000. Like we just know that it will be. Um, so
I
yeah,
mean, it's one of those things that it's creating a new bubble in the video game space, and people aren't going to be able to afford to keep up with it, and then it's going to cause a secondary collapse again, right? Uh,
maybe.
it's just like y kids can't afford that. Like, that's the whole point is, it's parents aren't gonna afford that for their kids. That's insane. Um, you can blame inflation, you can blame logistics, you can blame anything you want, that's fine. People financially can't keep up with it. That's the problem. I mean, and you already hear all the developers being laid off all the time everywhere. You're hearing about cancellations here left and right. With the current increase of game prices, guaranteed they're going to try to increase prices again with the next generation of consoles. Um, so guaranteeing the minimum price is going to be like $80 a game. Like
Mhm.
70 at best. So you're looking at 70 probably to $90 it being the price range for the average base game. Uh, to boot with your consoles being, I don't know, 700 to $1,000, depending on which version you get. Uh, you're pricing a lot of people out. The average consumer is just gonna stick around with the old stuff, which is going to once again ruin the progression of the evolution of tech, because back in the day, you had to do a hard cutoff because literally the format wouldn't work. You couldn't play the new stuff on the old stuff. They had to make a more simplistic version. Um, but instead, they're trying to do let's minimize the step down and not make it necessarily a second version. We'll just, you just literally crank the graphic meter up, crank the amount of pedestrians, more pixels. It's I think you'd actually be better off just hard coding, like, this is the more simplistic version of the game. Here's some specialized levels, and here's the new version with all the bells and whistles. But I don't think, this is helping the gaming industry at all, and it's just gonna be a huge disappointment for us.
I think that they don't want us to buy Xboxes. I mean, I think that that's basically what they're telling us. I mean, everything's an Xbox. And then we're gonna make it premium. The ROG Ally is $1,000 bucks. Maybe it's a good experience. I don't know. The next, the premium Xbox is going to be $1,000 bucks or something close to it. Um, they're basically telling us we don't want you to buy this console anymore, and we want you to play our stuff on the PC that you already have that's already running Windows, and then, well, I don't have a PC, I don't have an Xbox. It's like, well, you're going to need a PC anyway once you grow up, right? So you may as well buy a PC that's going to have Windows, and so they get money that way, and then play Xbox games off of that. So yeah, it's it's baffling. And but I mean, like all this being said, like if we get to the other side of 2027 or whenever they release the next the next Xbox, and they have like one or two like killer apps, like generation defining apps that are exclusive or whatever to Xbox, um, then that will be the start of like, okay, then they kind of maybe know what they're doing. And if they continue that and they have like a crazy run, then like I would be very glad in 2030 to be like, I was wrong. Just eat crow. I'd be very glad to do that. But I just don't think that that's what they're going to do because they don't seem to be know how to win hearts and minds anymore.
Their generation defining apps or games will be available on a PlayStation, will be available on the PC, well, because everything's an Xbox.
Yeah.
So that's the other part that they just shot themselves in the foot. Um,
Yeah.
there's no reason out there that they can really convince the people to buy their new Xbox. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people have you know unless if you're specifically into a certain kind of genre shooter that is only available. But a lot of the shooters are available across, multi-platform now, so you can play with PC, so you can play with Xbox or PlayStation. Um, Nothing's exclusive anymore, from Xbox at least. And I mean, even Halo's coming to PlayStation now with their. Not granted, it's not multiplayer; it's the campaign. Their new campaign evolved, which it's they're going to continue to have Call of Duty on everything because that's going to make them all the monies. And I think you're right, though. I think I kind of want they just kind of seem to want a way to bow out of the console market, and by if they target the premium listing, be like, "Yep, we really made the Lamborghini of consoles. It just unfortunately priced us out, and we found it more financial for us to step away from the market now. We'll continue to be a publisher. We'll There'll be uh, the bigger version of Sega, and then that's
That's
it. You'll
exactly
see.
what came to mind. It's like, well, Sega tried to go premium. I mean, in their own way, they charged too much and were early and stuff like that, and they were not Microsoft, so they were not the same level of power, but they kind of got their asses handed to them by Sony and Nintendo in the same way. Like I just think that like that Xbox is gonna go like, well, we're leaving because you didn't want to buy an Xbox, and it's like you gotta. I mean, I can just see the future, and that is what they're going to say in interviews and like whatever, like little pot shots. They're like, well, we're gonna leave the video game industry because you guys didn't want to buy Xbox. It's like we don't want to pay like $1,000 for an Xbox. Like I mean, Sony and Nintendo are showing you what to do. Like there's plenty of American developers. There's plenty of people on this side of the pond that would love, and in Europe, that would love to basically do the same thing that like Nintendo and Sony do with like their kind of with their developers and stuff like that. There's a lot that they could do. They just don't want to.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the new Mario and Sonic and Master Chief at the Olympic Games because that's going to happen, especially when Microsoft becomes the publisher only. I mean, like I said, people never thought they would see Sonic on a Nintendo console. People would have never thought to see Master Chief on a PlayStation console, but this is the world we live in now.
Yeah.
And which is, like I said, console wars were silly and stupid, but the competition really was good as a whole for the companies to keep themselves competitive. Progression of tech, cost. Uh, Now it just seems like everyone's given up, and they just want the most. They want to wring the customers out for as much money as they can. So, all right, enough about this depressing topic. Let's move to a different one.
All right, we can go through some of these other ones sort of quickly, I guess. Amazon's Lord of the Rings MMO has been canceled. There was some stuff earlier in the week about that it was not looking good, and now it's been canceled. I didn't read too much of this article, so I'm not going to comment too much more other than like I just MMOs are easily 10 years past their due date. I don't know why in the world you would try to start a new MMO in 2025. I mean, Lord of the Rings is not a bad one, like not a bad property to try to spark one on because there's so many people who are going to be so much name recognition for that. But MMOs are pretty well played out, and they're very easy. They're very hard to succeed, and they're very easy to fail because you have to have a massive number of people. If you don't have a massive number of people right out of the gate, then it's pretty much doomed to failure. Just ask Elder Scrolls Online, Um, but and then there's countless other ones that people have tried, even ones that look pretty good. It's just like, well, people that play MMOs, I don't think play a lot of them. I could be wrong, but I think if you play an MMO, you only play one MMO. You don't play like four or five. There's probably people out there who do, but like, gosh dang it, it's like a full time job, just pretty much as it is. But anyway, Amazon canceled this game. They're saying this is sort of part of maybe I could be wrong, but this is part of like the 14,000 people that got laid off and projects that got canceled. Like this is sort of being grouped into that as well.
I mean, I was telling you about this before. Like, it makes sense that they would cancel this for a number of reasons. I feel that their Lord of the Rings push, both with the TV series, the animated movie that they came out with. Those have not been highly received or well received of late. So it seems like a lot of that momentum and fervor is gone. Then also you have, what was it, New World, that their current MMO. I don't know much about it. I do know that it hasn't been setting the world on fire, like, but what it did set on fire was, like, I remember it broke a bunch of GPUs when it first came on to the scene because of some silly like screen cap, like for frame rates, and it would constantly try to up the frame rate or something like that. And so when it first came out, like around the, what was it, 2020 or something, it was like 30 series cards, 3080s and 3090s were like reportedly taking damage because it was running too high too fast. So, but considering the fact that that's all I've really heard from their MMO and being more surprised that it still exists. I mean, they must make some money from it because it still was in service, but obviously if it was doing really well, they'd be making harder pushes. And so yeah, MMOs or anything, paid service games, obviously not doing hot these days. Uh, with their not so hot Lord of the Rings, it just makes sense for them to cut their losses.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. So we'll see if they come up with anything else later, but looks like it's probably not going to happen. At least not from them. Um, Next up, Japan Patent Office rejects Nintendo patent for Pokemon capture mechanic. They were talking about this. I thought they were talking about this from a long time ago. That some people were saying that this was crazy that, or some patent lawyer was saying that it was crazy that Nintendo got it through in the first place. What I have read about this was from Kotaku, and basically the lawsuit that Nintendo has with Pal World, according to this article, is not actually over the kind of copyright infringement that you would think that it would be about, like the copying of characters or anything like that. But it's like only like $70,000, and it's based on like patents and not like old patents. It's like patents that Nintendo is either creating or renewing, or maybe a little bit of both. And so I think that this patent in particular with the Pokemon capture mechanic is actually being renewed, and that anyway, so I'm not sure if it's being renewed, or because I don't know how it would be brand new because it's kind of an old idea, but basically Yeah, so people are kind of counting this as a win for video game development as a whole. Some people are anyway, because these patents have kind of gotten out of control. Like patent warfare, more or less, has been a big thing in the tech world for quite a long time. So um, people are enjoying this, are glad that this is happening. Uh, at least some people are, and I think that I'm in with them. I think that from what I do know about patents, it is pretty crazy. It is too much, and um, I do think that Nintendo is overly litigious on a lot of this stuff. Um, I'd have to really look into it to make my own judgment, but it is kind of crazy that kind of how broad this particular patent. What I've heard this particular patent is pretty broad, and yeah, I think it's probably for the best. But yeah, so that's the news there so far.
Yeah, it happens to like I think it's with this like coinciding with it was Capcom designer Yoshiki uh Okamoto from like Street Fighter 2 and like Resident Evil fame. Uh they said that Pal World more or less crossed a line that should not that should not have been crossed, and in defense of Nintendo.
Mm.
Um, and it got a lot of backlash from it because people are like, well, if you're defending them, I grant if they're with Street Fighter, Street Fighter 2, the big lawsuit was from what was that, World Fighters or something like that. It was, there was an actual like big lawsuit back in the day because of some of the quarter circle moves and stuff like that. But if you're trying to patent, certain mechanics, that means like platformers. Okay, well that means you can never, if you try imagining Mario patenting jumping and breaking something, hitting something like, that would, or running to the running from left to right or some garbage like that. It just hurts games. It does. There's no point in it. Um, it's certain things that are just silly and there's no reason. The loading screen mini game patent, that's one of the most famous ones, or the Nemesis
Yeah.
system, or in the more recent years. I'm like,
Gosh,
there
yeah.
is, yeah, right. Because everyone expected the Nemesis system to take off, and then it wasn't until long later then people are like, oh, it's been patented. That's garbage. And especially since they never made any new games with it. Like they own the patent. They should make more games with it. And they didn't. They made one additional. That was it. Um, so the idea of patenting mechanics or certain things like that, imagine in Mega Man or something, patenting the idea of like gaining an ability from defeating an enemy or something. That's, you know, it'd be garbage. I just,
It's
it,
it,
there's no
it's
reason.
it seems like it's probably kind of along the same lines as like why you cannot copyright dance moves. I mean, that has to do with like the human body, so you can't patent stuff or copyright stuff that's like based on the human body like that. But but to me, it falls in a similar category, like where the but then it's like, well, how do you define that as different from an invention? Well, it's tough, but there's probably some sort of line. If nothing else, the patents should just be shorter, because what are they, like 20 years right now? Like,
I forget. It's like I think patents have different rules depending if it's internet, like international, or depending on what country they're
yeah,
in.
that's but like but at the I mean at the very least it's like in this day and age, maximum 10 years. That is like the absolute maximum. And really it should probably be like 5 or 7. Like I would be fine more or less with 7. I'd be like, okay. But it should really probably be 5. It's like if you can't make fetch happen in 5 years, you're not able to. Like you're just not going to like be able to really like make it work. Like I heard a long time ago that basically the Wright brothers invented flight, and then like nothing else happened with flight in America because of all the patents and stuff. Like modern like flight and technology and commercial flight, I can't help it, took off in France. Like like they they are actually the ones who are like, okay, you guys have patents over there, like, well, we don't over here, so we're gonna like develop this. And like the Wright brothers, you know, they're very smart and they did a great thing, but like they didn't like know how to take the next step. Like that had to be done like over in Europe. I could be wrong about that, but that's probably from a Cracked article I read like 15 years ago. So anyway, so I carry that with me just to say like that sometimes patents that like these patent laws are just, and they were even not even that bad back then. Like they're worse now. These patent laws are just have gotten out of hand, and we need to curtail them. Probably not wipe them out completely, because I think that we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I think they're useful, because they do protect people, but we need to make them not quite so much the nuclear option.
But we just discussed earlier how you love the nuclear option.
Well, the real nuclear option, but not the like the not the copyright nuclear. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, so hopefully, the gaming industry gets a little bit better because of this. So let's hope that.
Okay.
All right. Well, what else you got for us, man?
All right. Last two things we can just go through. The Wachowskis apparently wanted Kojima to make a Matrix video game. Skim this article. Like back in 1999, the Wachowskis were visited or were at the same conference as some people from Konami, and they were like, "Hey, we want Kojima to make a video game for us." And I forget the guy's name. His name also started with a K, but he was like, "No." So apparently they kind of pitched it or whatever, like soft pitch, and he was just like, "No." And apparently Kojima only recently found out that this was kind of something that was being thrown around. And of course now he's saying that we could have made it work. We could have done something like that or whatever. But people pointed out that he was pretty well deep into making Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, because that came out what in '01, I think, with the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
So so I mean he was pretty deep into that. I kind of doubt he would have had much time to make a Matrix game. But then again, maybe history would have been different. He would have been like, okay, I'll help you guys make a game, but I have to finish up Sons of Liberty, so we might not have gotten it until like '04, '05. But anyway, it's just sort of a little funny story that I thought I'd bring up.
Yeah. So it was funny because I think there was Enter the Matrix, and then I think it was Path of Neo. Path of Neo was actually okay. I remember it being a fun, stupid, like beat 'em up Matrix game, and
Wasn't
the,
there an MMO? As what was that Path of
that
Neo?
was no, no, that was I'm pretty sure that was the Enter the Matrix.
Okay.
Uh, and so the Path of Neo was just, single player, game. So everything that he did stupidly in the movies, when he became like completely in the later movies, fighting a bunch of ancient Smiths, being able to grab one in each hand and just like, twirl them like nunchucks and just bang them on the ground and stuff like that and toss them in the air. It kind of fulfilled that uh, level of stupid idiotic fun. But other than that, we're like, yeah, don't any other Matrix game, don't even bother. That
Well,
was people had fun with the Enter the Matrix, but then I got like delisted. It was people seem to remember. I think
so
looking back on it more fondly than at the time of its release.
okay. So Path of Neo, you're right about the Matrix. The Matrix MMO was, or whatever it was called the Matrix Online. So that's what that was, that one.
Same year, okay. That was the
But
same year then.
but Enter the Matrix. Enter the Matrix. I remember renting this game and playing it. Very flawed game. Very flawed game. But it it did have some really cool aspects, really cool moments. You either play as Ghost, or I forget the character's name, but anyway, the lady character who is
Trinity?
Morpheus's ex-girlfriend in The Matrix Reloaded, and the
All
other.
is she's the one from is she the one from the Animatrix or
I don't know if she's in the Animatrix, any of those. She's in the Matrix a little bit in the Matrix Reloaded, and she's in the third Matrix as well. Anyway, so that one was very much like bullet timey. It was like very much like what's the game that I'm trying to think of that started bullet time?
Max Payne.
Max Payne. It's very much like Max Payne, you know, as far as I understand, like not as good, obviously, but like they were stealing a lot of stuff from that. It had some really cool stuff in it. It felt good to play in certain parts, but it was deeply flawed in many, many, many other ways. So it's kind of sad that we didn't get something like even like better from that. But anyway, so I just thought I would bring that up because it's kind of a neat little story. Last thing, PlayStation concert. So they're doing this PlayStation concert tour of like the past 30 years of PlayStation music. That's like, you know, classic music and stuff. From like God of War and Ghost of Tsushima and all those others. Well, a lot of these concert dates are being canceled, like almost half. They're just like getting annihilated. And I didn't read enough to see exactly why this is happening, but it might be because sales aren't good enough in certain places, and so they're just not able to do it. But it is getting canceled kind of left and right. So like I looked at the tour dates and like a ton of them are red. Like I think half or maybe yeah, it seems like half are red, which means they're canceled. So yeah. So sorry to end on a sad note, but I just thought I'd mention that as well.
Yeah, I thought I heard about rumors about that a little while ago, and so which is strange because I feel that there's still a lot of attendance to a lot of these video game concerts. I mean, I know in the Chicagoland area there was like a few weeks ago, the Stardew Valley one was sold out, and I just remember being like seeing a lot of a few tickets for resale on different like secondhand sites. And I knew someone who happened to go there, so we asked him like, "Hey, if there's any merch on the Void Chicken, bring us a pin." And they brought back a pin. We're like, "Oh, cool, thanks." That was not actually expecting that, but they had it, and I was happy to pay for it. So
Sick.
yeah, it's I know I've seen a few video game concerts in my past, though. I think the Final Fantasy ones are some of the more successful ones of late,
Yeah.
and um, I just feel that maybe it's, a production, like or, like, not enough promotion, but I feel like these always sell out, at least in Japan, they used to always do really well too, and whenever you hear about them hitting the major cities, so I'm curious about why they are being canceled, so if you guys are hoping to go and they did get canceled on you, I'm sorry to hear about that because that's, those things are usually pretty fun, and so hopefully you get to see it next time around.
Yeah.
Alright. Well, on that note, Nick, uh yeah, what are some words of wisdom you have for the people out there?
You know, if you're going to not watch all of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, then the best way to do that um, get a old, you know, a film camera reel and run it off of that, and just so you don't break your streak, you just cut the last, you know, the last like 50, no, cut the last like 1,000 frames off of the film, and burn that in as a symbol of your dedication. But yeah,
Or you can just man up and finish the series. Uh,
nope, never. Now I can't. Now I never will. I'm never gonna watch. I'm gonna
yeah.
see how often I can go to the Rocky Horror Picture Show and leave in the middle.
All right. Well, this has been another Dead Pixel, episode 150. Uh, if you made it to the end, we appreciate it. And until next time, y'all take it easy.
Bye. Episode 150. 150.